Welcome to the Internet Money Podcast. I am my good friend Jake. He's the co-founder of Contact, an SEO agency, co-founder of ByWord, and he has a whole LinkedIn posting tools that I'm very interested to dive into. But Jake, I know you as the SEO master. So if you only had 1 minute to tell the audience how to use SEO to grow a successful online business, what would you tell the audience?
Yeah, so really SEO comes down to three buckets. Number one is your existing website. So a lot of people have a fresh website, so this may not be applicable. But if you do, and you have existing content, you want to audit that site and understand the key metrics for each URL. And then from there, you can action item, for each URL, I want to do this. So it might be delete it if it's not relevant, merge it with another piece of content, update it, remove it completely, etc. The next thing is from that audit, you will also discover some technical fixes like the wrong tags that might be there, the internal linking structure is not correct, etc. And then also within that audit, you want to do a quick win keyword audit, which is basically finding the keywords that you're in position 3 to 20. And this is basically saying, you're nearly ranking for these keywords. So all you need to do is optimize those keywords a little bit better on those pages to rank for those. And then from there, if you're already getting traffic, a very quick fix for getting more business from it or email subscribers, whatever the goal is just to create lead magnets. So, if I've got a blog post that's how to create a trading plan, for example, what I will do then is create a trading plan template and promote it within the blog post. And that way you'll just get people into your email list. So it's not just traffic that visits and then bounces. The next phase really is new content. So you've got to really understand your total addressable search market. You can do this by looking at competitors using something like Ahrefs or SEMrush. You can find seed keywords almost, I call them, which is knowing the core topics that your customers would search on Google. So let's say project management tool. Let's say you're a project management tool and you might type in project management into Ahrefs or SEMrush. And then if you go on the matching terms report, you can see all the keywords that people search around project management. And then from there, it's basically just creating an action plan of, okay, here are all the new pieces of content we need to create. So you might use AI for some of them, you might use humans, and that's basically the next phase, which is creating that content. But then there's also link building, which is essentially, other websites voting for your own website. And the more of those you have, the more credible and high authority you'll be in the eyes of Google. So if you do those three things very well, your existing website, creating new content, and then getting links from directories, listing sites of those are the more foundational links, but then also that digital PR. So if you're doing something, tell journalists about it. You can use websites like Help a Reporter Out, that you can just respond to journalist requests, and then also more targeted, which is reaching out to other websites in your industry, asking if you can upload a guest post. And that way you're getting as many votes for your website as possible, which will then put some fire behind the content that you already have on your website.
Yeah, I'm going to ask some foundational questions in case people aren't super familiar with SEO, and then we'll go to some more of the advanced stuff. So let's say, we've got a site, we've been around for like a few years, and we want to check out some things like the domain authority. One of the first things you mentioned is you kind of want to get like an audit of some of the key metrics. So talk to us a little bit about like, what are the key metrics like that are looked at in the industry? And then what is it you personally looked at it? Is it like domain authority? Is it the amount of backlinks? Talk to us about like, what are the main metrics like people should be thinking about?
Yeah, so use two tools, you can use three. So the first one would be Google Search Console. This is completely free. This will show you exactly how your current SEO is performing. So you can see all the impression data, the clicks data that you're getting from Google. And this way you can see, these keywords are getting this many impressions, but we're only getting this amount of clicks. So what can we do to change that? The other thing is Ahrefs or SEMrush. Basically use one of those tools. They're both great. And this will show you a little bit more about your backlink portfolio. So you can see your domain authority there, which is basically like a measurement of the amount of votes you have for your website. So backlinks pointing to your website. And that's really the key metrics is, how many impressions you're getting, where are you performing on those keywords, what position are you? how many clicks you're getting, and you can look at click-through rate there as well. So how many searches, and if you're at the top of Google, how many of those are actually clicking your page over the others. If it's quite low, then you might want to improve the title or so on. And then from there, it's just domain authority, the number of backlinks you have, the number of referring domains, and so on.
So backlinks, so other, we'll say like a news publication is, linking to Jake's website because he has some good information, like maybe some like a supplemental information. So the amount of backlinks. Talk to us about keywords, because keywords are something very important in SEO. Is this just like, hey, the density of keywords you might have on your homepage, or like, hey, you wrote a specific blog about, programmatic SEO, and now Google picks up that programmatic SEO keyword and associates your website with that search term? Like, talk to us a little bit about like keywords and kind of how to do it right. Is it just like get as many keywords on your page as possible?
If you're looking at your Google Search Console, you can see all the keywords that you're ranking for already. Now, to go about better ranking for those keywords is you got to first find the page that is ranking for those keywords, and then Google that keyword. And normally, I always say that Google, the secret in ranking for that keyword is in Google. You can just search the keyword and see the results that Google is rewarding for it. And basically, it's just a game of reverse engineering what other websites are doing, implementing it into yours, maybe a little bit better as well. And so that might be stuff like optimizing the title tag, or there's a whole topic that other competitors are talking about within that subtopic that you're not currently. Improving the introduction, so that's a key thing that Google looks at, but also it helps users keep scrolling. Your headings and use of keywords in those headings. And so that's existing content, and it's basically the same process with new content as well. So once you've discovered some keywords, you might use Ahrefs for this, find a keyword. But the important thing to know is, multiple keywords can make up one topic. So for example, the project management example I gave before, people might search best project management tool, but they also might search best project management software or platform, and so on. So there's probably tens of keywords for that one topic. And to get a really good understanding of that topic, you've got to find all those keywords, and you can then project, okay, this is how many searches that one topic gets rather than the individual keywords. And then once you have an idea of all of the keywords that make up that one topic, you can then use those sporadically within your content. So through the headings and through the different sections on your website and so on.
Now, when I was finally leaving Google, one thing I was working on was AI search summaries. So I think some people are like, is like SEO going to die because like Google is just going to give you some like LLM responses? Is this still something to focus on? Talk to us a little bit about like, what's the outlook of SEO in 2024, and what are some like techniques or things to focus on and things that maybe aren't as relevant these days?
Yeah, I think AI definitely is changing the game, probably in two ways. The first one is, like you said, the AI summaries that are now appearing in Google. So SEO is eventually becoming, one big part of it is going to be becoming AIO, so AI optimization or LLM optimization. So a key way to get into that is to basically rank your page higher, and then Google seems to be right now summarizing the top few pages, and then they'll actually cite you within the summary, so you can drive a decent amount of traffic that way as well. So that's the platform changing, but then also AI for SEOs like me, it speeds up the content creation process, the keyword research process. So AI is really going to change the platform and then how people use it to improve their own services, their own SEO, and so on.
Yeah, so let's say there are some people out here and maybe they have a project software or a project management SaaS, and they've kind of been neglecting SEO. Is it they can look at some AI generation tools and be like, oh, perfect, here's my opportunity to generate a bunch of like quick articles on like long tail keywords? Or is this like, oh, you're going to get clapped if you use like AI generated blog posts? Talk to us a little bit about like how they can kind of use AI to enhance their ability to catch up.
Yeah. So the way you got to think about SEO content is almost like a funnel. I'm not saying it is a funnel, but it's the best way of thinking about it. At the bottom of the funnel, you have people that are ready to buy your product almost. So they might be doing like a Trello alternative. They're already using Trello, but they don't quite like the tool, or they're considering using it. And this is the type of content that does really well in SaaS. It's probably the highest converting piece of content, I would say. So Trello alternatives, or Trello versus Monday versus your tool. And basically what you're doing there is ranking for that term and explaining to the reader why you're the best solution there. And then you've got to list the other competitors as well, just because that's the format that Google likes. So definitely human focus there, just because right now humans are able to articulate the differences between the products and suggest the best one possible for that user. Then you got to think about the middle funnel, which is more problem focused, pain point focused type of content. This might be, how-tos or templates, project management templates, examples, those sort of things. So people that are obviously doing the thing that you're selling, but they're not quite signaling to you through the search that they're ready to buy. Again, I would say that to articulate all this quite well, you've got to do it through a human that understands what they're talking about and how to write the content in a way that will convert the reader eventually into your tool. And then you have right at the top of the funnel. And this is where you have quite a lot of room for creativity. I tend to scale the top of funnel with AI using my own tool, ByWord. And basically the whole premise there is, okay, what are the different keyword frameworks that people are searching for? So for example, a very easy one to understand is, what is X term? And then that you can build a very good glossary of people searching for every term within your industry. But because AI is very good at creating that content, almost as good as humans themselves, because of the vast information on the web about those different terms. You can create hundreds of pages in a couple of hours that way. So then you have like a nice mix of human written that's more going to get this top of funnel traffic, the AI written, and then the human written bottom and middle funnel that's just purely focused on conversions.
Yeah, and I definitely want to touch more into ByWord because you've got a lot of things going on. So talk to us a little bit about like how you decided to make this like SaaS. What's kind of like your plan for it?
Yeah, sure. So this was actually built by my friend Mac. We met probably like 6 years ago now through a mutual client. He was doing ads, I was doing SEO. And randomly, a few years ago, 2, 3 years ago now, he popped up to me and said, "Hey, Jay, could you do anything with AI and SEO?" And I was like, "What?" This was before ChatGPT or anything like that. So I was like, "Oh, I don't really understand what that means." Um, and yeah, he showed me what he was doing. It was all like a manual process. There was no SaaS element to it, apart from the technology that he was using. Um, and we basically came to the conclusion that this should be available for anyone to do. So we turned it into a SaaS, and then we launched, and we timed the market very well, because that's exactly when ChatGPT was blowing up. Everyone was talking about AI on the internet. So like I said, it was timed very, very well. And yeah, from there, we've done loads of projects. We've had 75,000 people use the tool. And we've had projects getting hundreds of thousands of clicks just through AI content. I posted another case study recently that was the exact example I gave before, which was for a glossary. We published that about 18 months ago now, and it's currently doing about 70,000 organic traffic per month still, 18 months on, without doing any other work. And we did that project in about 2 hours. So the leverage is huge with AI and ByWord.
And who's like a user of ByWord? Is it like an SEO agency? Is it like a coaching consultant that's just like, hey, like solo entrepreneur that's like, hey, I just need to get more traffic to my website. Like, talk to us about who's like a general user of ByWord.
Yeah, interesting. We did an audit on this recently. It's actually quite split between B2B, B2C, and agencies. What we do see is that obviously the agencies, they require more content because they're doing it for their clients and so on. So they seem to, have much higher output. But the industry that had the most people using it was in B2B. So, coaches or solopreneurs, that type of audience.
And then you mentioned earlier that you've obviously created the ByWord SaaS. You have your own agency. Talk to us a little bit about like what the agency does, and is it just like essentially a done for you SEO service?
Yeah, it's exactly that. So we handle, it's a monthly subscription service. There's different packages that you can have. So some will do programmatic, some will do the more human focus, or some will have a mix of the two. And we, basically every month we'll create. So the first month always starts with all the strategy elements, so auditing, keyword research, everything like that, to create the roadmap that we then execute over the following months. And then from there, it's basically executing that content. So publishing 10, 20, 30 articles a month, or if it's a programmatic project, it could be hundreds or thousands of pages from there. And then basically we have clients stay with us until they feel like they've gotten enough from SEO and they want to put budgets elsewhere, or whatever that may be.
And then I'm trying to think about this maybe from past guests. So we've had Drippy on here. We've had some of the founders of ListKit on here. So essentially what they do is they like Drippy or ListKit would be like the software. And that's kind of just we'll give you the tools to do it yourself. Then they've got the agency, the done for you offer. Can you think of ByWord and your SEO agency in that respect? Like, is there an upsell in ByWord to be like, hey, and if you guys don't want to like generate all of these yourselves, like we'll do it for you?
Yeah, we have like a separate team within ByWord that helps people execute only programmatic. Contact is more large scale, so we think about everything to do with SEO. So we kind of cover both bases between the two companies.
Got it. And then I know their SEO, the way I met Jake, for people that are listening, they're like, how'd you meet Jake? Is I met him through our friend Anthony. So listen to the episode with Anthony about optimizing your podcast. Jake, tell them the story about how you built your podcast. Really, I think you mentioned you didn't even record your own voice on the podcast. Talk to him a little bit about like how you use SEO to scale a podcast.
Yeah, so this was a fun lockdown project. I think it was March, so very early into lockdown. And I was interested in exploring other search platforms. So it could have been Amazon, could have been LinkedIn, could have been podcasting platforms. And I also at that time was listening to like sleep podcasts to help me get to sleep a little bit better and that sort of stuff. So I was listening to a couple of them. I was like, these aren't that good and they're getting so much attention. So what would happen if I went to Fiverr, found like a voice actor, gave him a bunch of scripts that might be stories or meditations, and making sure they're copyright free, and pay him for every episode, and then use my SEO knowledge to optimize for search. Because I also knew that using something like Ahrefs, I can see that people are actually searching for those types of podcasts within Google. So that makes me think that people are obviously searching for it in Apple Podcasts or Spotify. So yeah, that was basically the founding story. And then from there, within about 90 days, it started getting around 300,000 downloads per month. And we were uploading an episode a week.
And for people that are unfamiliar with podcast download numbers, that is absolutely prolific numbers. Like you don't see that except for really big players. Now you mentioned, okay, there's podcast search, and for people that are unfamiliar, Apple doesn't necessarily give you details into like what people are searching for, nor does Spotify, as far as I'm concerned. Talk to us a little bit about like SEO on other platforms. One thing that people have come on and talked a lot about is SEO on YouTube, but there's also Pinterest, there's Amazon, there's TikTok. Talk to us a little bit about like SEO on some different platforms and where you feel like it's important or where it's maybe not so important. Like maybe like Twitter SEO isn't a thing.
Yeah, I think social platforms aren't that important. LinkedIn potentially, because recruiters are going to search for certain key terms. But basically, you just think like, okay, what are people going to be searching on whatever platform I'm going to be optimizing, and work back from that. So reverse engineer their search, their intent, and then optimize whatever you're optimizing, so the page, your profile, whatever, optimize it all for that search. So it might be in your headline, in your bio. Some people even do it in their actual name. Any metadata that you have control over, like podcasting platforms allow you to do descriptions. You basically just want to optimize as much of those elements as possible with the keywords that you're targeting.
So essentially research the keywords, like the intents that people have, get the keywords, and then for lack of a better term, maybe stuff the descriptions full of those keywords. I've heard that works decently well on YouTube. Maybe you'd know otherwise. But you did mention LinkedIn, and I know you have a tool for LinkedIn specifically. And I also noticed by following Jake on LinkedIn, he's a very prolific writer on LinkedIn. I honestly thought he had a ghostwriter by the amount of content. I was like, I just feel so lazy. So talk to us a little bit about one, like why you emphasize so much LinkedIn, and a bit about like your tooling around there.
Yeah. So the whole story behind why did LinkedIn over other platforms is because one, it was probably where I felt most comfortable is behind the screen, behind the keyboard writing, rather than being in front of a camera like this. This is very uncomfortable for me. But the other thing is, looking at all the text-based platforms like Twitter or LinkedIn, it was clear to me that Twitter had a load of people that are talking about the topic that I'm talking about. Whereas LinkedIn, it was kind of like a blue ocean. Like no one was really talking about SEO in the same way they were on Twitter. So that's pretty much why I got there. And then I was seeing other newbies to LinkedIn blowing up, getting loads of followers. It almost feels like an easy place to grow. So what I did is I took Justin Welsh's course. I would recommend that for anyone considering LinkedIn. I booked a power hour with someone that was just blowing up on LinkedIn just to understand his process, how he did it, helped me get to 0 to 1. And I wrote my first post, which is basically like an introductory post about who I am, what I'm about, what I did to get over the blockers around posting on LinkedIn. And I tagged them both into it to almost say thank you for the resources they provided. And it blew up. It got like 350,000 impressions, my first 5,000 followers. And from there, and that was 2 years ago now. I feel like I'm still riding that wave. I'm close to 150,000 followers now. And it's basically built all of the businesses that I own now, all the 100,000s of users as well. So I think it's the best place to go on right now for growth, because I've also got Twitter, which I did a little bit later on, and I found it so sluggish in comparison. So I think LinkedIn is best for growth, especially if you have zero network, zero followers, nothing. You're starting from scratch, LinkedIn, and then eventually you can distribute your content onto other platforms.
Now, let's say, because we're mostly YouTube, Twitter, Instagram people around these parts. So talk to us a little bit about like the differences, like what kind of posts perform on LinkedIn, like what's kind of like, if you've been 2 years on the platform, what kind of advice can you give people that are like, shit, I haven't touched LinkedIn in a while? Like talk to them a little bit about how they can be successful on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think it's kind of the same as Twitter, honestly. So text posts, they can do well. I think they do better on Twitter if you have a decent audience. So text posts are fine. They're probably the lowest importance in my opinion. As soon as you add an image to the post, it does very well. The image is almost got to be like a hook itself, though. The best formats that I find is carousels, which are the annoying little scrolly things that you might find on LinkedIn. They are almost like Twitter threads. So long form content, providing a lot of value in whatever industry that you're in. That is always the biggest revenue driver, the biggest volume driver, follower growth. It comes from those sort of posts. And then once you understand the content, it's very simple. It's basically just those three elements. People are also doing video at the moment, and I think LinkedIn will be pushing that feature a lot more just because it's a new feature. They want to become the B2B TikTok almost, I imagine. So I think video will do well going forward. But in terms of just text, it's carousels. They've been a winner for about a year now, and they'll probably continue to do so. And then from there, it's about, okay, how can I get other people in my industry to engage with my content to then push it to their audience? So, LinkedIn is all about networking. So you just got to do as much of that as possible. Network, schedule calls with these people, engage with their content, and then they might do the same to you. And as long as you have really great content, then if you do those two things right, you'll find success on the platform. It's very easy to grow.
Now, yeah, okay. So there's two points I want to touch on there. One is the carousel itself. So for people that are maybe uninitiated to LinkedIn, it's essentially like multiple images that describe. So describe like maybe a carousel that you did recently or that was quite successful to just kind of put the image in the listener's mind as to what that looks like.
Yeah, sure. So I'll go back to the glossary one I talked about before. I had this case study that I wanted to create a post around. I could have done it through a text post and then an image, but I think the most engaging type of content for that is to show graphs and to show multiple different visuals throughout the content. And the only way to do it on LinkedIn right now is through a carousel. So you have the front cover, which will be a big title, maybe a graph or something that's going up or whatever that looks like, something that will hook the user in, almost like a YouTube thumbnail. Then in the text part of the post above the actual carousel, that's another point to get people to read the content below. And then throughout the carousel, it's essentially a PDF. Actually, you create it in Canva or whatever, export it as a PDF, and upload it. And throughout the carousel, I would explain each process. So number one, I did this, and I showed how to do that. Pointed arrows to different things. Number two, did the same. And then right at the end, we have like a CTA that's either sign up for ByWord or contact studios or whatever that might be. So very visual, very engaging, shows the user how to do that specific thing I'm talking about.
And then earlier you had mentioned, and this is the second part, is that it's all LinkedIn's all about growing a community. So very similar to Twitter, it's like if you engage with other people, they'll engage with you. Do you have any strategy that people can implement around like how to grow, I guess their community on there, like people that are engaging with their stuff?
Yeah. There's no other answer really than just investing a lot of time on the platform. I
Yeah.
think I was spending like 3-4 hours a day at the start for a long time, probably for the first year. And that was engaging with all the people that I could think of that are relevant to me or my audience or the type of people I want to attract as a client. And then just like genuinely making friendships. So, a lot of my friends, even my business partner that we were talking about off camera, I met him through LinkedIn. So, just shoot your shot, DM people. I still get on calls today with people that DM me that might not have any followers. I don't really care. I'm just interested in meeting cool people. So it's as simple as that, investing a lot of time engaging and sending DMs to different types of people.
And then is it like I'll go over Ty's framework. Ty, who's been on the podcast, people can go back to his episode. He was sending out like 200 connection requests a week, I believe, was the max he was doing. And then he was like, okay, so of that subset, then he tries to start conversations with all these people. Or are you like a bit more on the like, hey, if they comment on me, I'll shoot them a message, or if I see their post, I'll shoot them a message and then try to hop on a call?
Yeah, it changes, right? I think depending on your goals, like right at the start, I did that as well. So I think I was doing 10 connection requests a day, custom message to try and get them to connect with me and hopefully reply to that message. And yeah, I was doing that for a full year. And eventually you get, and you build your audience, you build your network, so you don't need to spend a lot of time doing that thing anymore. So now I don't do any of that. I get a lot of requests and reply to them, but that's basically the only sort of messaging I do on that platform.
And then the final thing that people always like to know about like any kind of social media platform is, does it convert? Because JK, friend of the pod, was always saying like saying cash, but does it convert into actual like business revenue? Have you seen like a good bump in your business from LinkedIn?
Oh, for sure. I mean, with Contact, we're doing very well there. All of our leads come from LinkedIn, but Twitter as well. Like that can do pretty good. But the majority come from LinkedIn. I have a good friend here as well. He's huge on Twitter. Huge on Twitter. He started distributing onto LinkedIn the same content, same format, everything. He's actually getting a little bit less total reach, but the majority of his conversions come from LinkedIn now. And with ByWord, like we built that business purely off LinkedIn. That's all the 100,000 plus 75,000 plus people we've got onto that platform has come from LinkedIn. And then Kleo, which is a LinkedIn tool, so obviously there's a bit of bias there, has grown to 34,000 signups right now. And that's, again, purely through LinkedIn.
And then talk to us about Clio, because I don't think we talked too much about that. What is Clio? What's the mission? Like, what is it? What's the goal of the product?
Yeah, so right now it's a free Chrome extension, and I initially built it for myself, or got someone to build it. I'm not a techie person, but I got someone to build it for myself because I wanted to see other people's top performing posts. Because I think the best way to get started in anything is just studying other creators, reverse engineering how they did it, and then applying it to yourself. And then from there, you find your own voice, your own style, your own method. So nothing like it existed, and I had it for myself for about 7 months before doing anything with it. And then eventually I mentioned it to a couple of my LinkedIn friends, and they were like, "Oh, I want to try it." And I gave it to them. And they're like, "Why haven't you talked about this? Why haven't you published this? Why isn't this a thing?" I was like, "Okay, yeah, maybe I should." So we built it into an actual Chrome extension from there, and launched it. Instantly got like a few thousand people using it. And the whole thing around it is the whole steal like an artist. So it's called Kleo, and the person that wrote that book, his last name is Cleon. And so it was a big inspiration for that, because simply down to that's how I think I grew quite quickly on LinkedIn. So you can use the Chrome extension. It's free to install. You go to any profile on LinkedIn, and you can instantly see on the right sidebar their top post. You can sort by different things. You can search and so on. Right now, we're very close to launching our paid plan, which is basically what it is now, but on steroids and in a web app form. And then eventually you'll be able to schedule posts, write posts with AI, save templates. If you find a post that you really like, you can templatize that post, save it to your template library. You can engage a little bit easier and more seamlessly within the platform. So we're really building like the best LinkedIn tool that I can possibly want for myself, and hopefully other people will want it too.
And then let's talk a little bit, and this will I promise this will be the last LinkedIn question for you is talk to us a little bit about your content creation process. Is like, hey, Saturday morning hits, and I'm going to write like 5 LinkedIn posts. And actually, talk to us real quick. How much do you post on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I'd say it changes quite a lot. I mean, in an ideal world, I'll have all of my posts, which is about 5 posts a week, so Monday to Friday. I'll have all my posts ready and scheduled for the following week, but it never seems to go that way, especially when you're trying to run other things and do other initiatives. Life gets in the way as well. So I always plan the post I'm going to be creating for about 4 weeks ahead. So I know at least what I'm posting. And the way I find those ideas is using Kleo and just generally from my brain now. And I will put together a bit of a plan, like a brief for myself of how that will be created. And then I'll either plan out what that post will look like, each slide of a carousel or the image or whatever. And then I have a designer that puts that together. So I write all the content, and the designer actually puts together the carousel.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. And now we'll get into some of the rapid fire questions, because I know you're a very busy man. So you've lived in multiple cities internationally, as I have as well. Where do you think like internet money people should live? And you can feel free to break this up by income level. If you're like, hey, if you're doing 100K a month, you should live here. But where do you think is like best to live based on your experience?
So I'd say I think the best place, and I know we've talked about it before as well, is Dubai for me, because the time zone is very good for me and my team, especially when I'm posting a lot of content. It's the latter end of my day rather than when I spent a lot of time in Medellin. I was posting at like 7-8 a.m., which was not great wake up call, and to have all that dopamine early in the morning. So Dubai for me in terms of time zone, in terms of safety, the lifestyle, like the beach is just out there and go for walks after lunch or whatever that looks like. For me, it's Dubai. And I would say the closest I've come to that is probably Medellin, like in terms of having everything set up. There's beautiful places, the food's incredible. I would say if you go into Dubai, you probably need over $20K a month. Anything before that, I personally be in Medellin.
Yeah, I feel like Dubai, if you're only at the 20K mark, and not to disparage anyone that's at the 20K mark, it's just going to be a tougher sled. It was like living in New York, where you're like, I got a 4K for my apartment. That's like a mids apartment, and it's just a walk uphill. So talk to us a little bit about a bad recommendation you hear in SEO that you feel like you just need to dispel.
I think it would be, it's almost like an idea that you hear all the time. When anything new happens with SEO, people will just say SEO is dead. Like, this is the death of SEO. They've been saying it since, the early 2000s. And the reality really is, searches grow about 10% year on year. There are about 4 billion Google searches every single day. SEO is a $100+ billion industry and is always growing. And ultimately, search engines and SEO on any platform will always evolve, like you've seen with AI. But in reality, search habits will take a long, long, long time to change. The things that might change is people might use other platforms like TikTok. I know that's quite popular with Gen Z. They use that for a lot of their research. So you just got to adapt to wherever you're going. But SEO will never die. As long as people are searching for something, SEO will always be here.
And then what do you think is the current marketing arbitrage? So in the past, people were like, okay, it's Google ads, then it was Meta ads. Some people think TikTok shop. Maybe you think posting on LinkedIn. What do you think is like current underpriced attention?
So in terms of growing quickly and getting a lot of eyeballs with not a huge amount of effort compared to other platforms, definitely LinkedIn. But that's a very easy answer for me. I would say what I've discovered recently is content distribution. So I create a lot of content on LinkedIn between a few profiles, not just my own. So I also have the LinkedIn Creator, which is like a sub brand of Kleo, its own little media brand. And we create a newsletter for that then distributes into LinkedIn posts, which then distribute into Twitter posts going forward. But then also we create blog posts from all that content. And eventually we're just going to have like this whole content machine that we create one thing once and it gets distributed several times, and we ultimately get a lot more eyeballs than we would if we're just creating that thing once for one platform.
Now, when you mentioned newsletter, is it the newsletter? Because I've seen newsletters that exist like kind of solely on LinkedIn. Like LinkedIn seems to have a newsletter feature, or are you creating this in Beehiiv? Like, talk to us a little bit about how that works.
Yeah, exactly. Beehiiv. I love Beehiiv. So, yeah, the LinkedIn creator is, like I said, it's basically like a source of inspiration for other LinkedIn creators. So we might break down several posts. We might provide loads of LinkedIn post templates, how to structure your about section, all that sort of stuff. So it's like a source of inspiration for creators. And what we decided on to get enough content for the LinkedIn profile was to create a newsletter that ultimately gets people into an email list that we can then promote whatever we're trying to sell later on to. But the format we came up with was like a 5-3-1. So 5 LinkedIn post templates, 3 conversion examples. This might be your headline or similar. And then 1 creator spotlight. So we'll interview a LinkedIn creator every week and get their answers to about 9 questions that we ask. And then all that content then distributes into individual posts for LinkedIn to get more eyeballs on that content, but then also funnel them into the newsletter, which is on Beehiiv. And then we use a landing page builder called Framer to actually capture that interest.
I love Framer. You can make some beautiful landing pages. Talk to us a little bit about
So
how you
simple.
actually plug the newsletter itself, because a lot of like Twitter or many platforms will deprioritize links and will really downshift your posts.
Yeah, so there's a few ways I think about it. Is you almost have post relevancy, post to conversion relevancy. So I almost make sure that because our newsletter is a lead magnet itself, right? You're getting 5 LinkedIn post templates and this other stuff every single week. That's a lead magnet. So we're just then going to find topics that will funnel the people that are interested in that topic on LinkedIn into the email list. So, because we distribute all the LinkedIn post templates, create one big post around that, it's quite an easy sell to get people to sign up to our newsletter to get even more templates every week. So that's what I make sure. So all of our posts that we create are very relevant to the newsletter that we have. And then in terms of getting people to sign up, we just put like, in the carousels, for example, about halfway in, we'll say, do you like these templates? You can get more. It's all for free, 5 post templates a week and all this other stuff. And then so the placement is important as well. So one in the middle, one at the end, and then we also do it in the text part of the post. But our profile, so if anyone visits our profile, they will see that everything is funneling into the newsletter. So it's in our headline, it's in our banner, it's in our website bit, it's in the about section, it's literally everywhere. So the key thing that we're optimizing for is getting their email address so we can send them emails and other things later on in the line.
And then are you segmenting the email list like based on where they come in? Like, I don't know if you're like UTMing anything where you're like, hey, if they come in from, no, okay, got it.
No, I'm a bit of a newbie when it comes to email marketing, segmentation, all that sort of stuff. I'm just like, let's just get the email and we can figure all that later on.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then talk to us like, obviously people are going to go on and follow you on LinkedIn and kind of get the sauce from there. Are there any other creators, maybe like one or two, where you're like, hey, you should really check out this creator? They do a really good job on LinkedIn.
Yeah, there's a few. So Justin Welsh, I mentioned him before. His course is great. That's what got me started, and he continues to smash it on LinkedIn. Another person which I think is incredible is Lara Acosta. She also has just launched her course, but she's completely overtaken me, and she's absolutely smashing it. From a personal branding perspective, she's incredible. And then I'd say Chris Donnelly, I think. Chris Donnelly, he's scaled from, I remember when he messaged me, it was at 60,000 followers, and now he's got close to 1 million. And that's probably only about a year in between that, if I'm estimating. And he does these huge infographics or very helpful carousels or whatever, anything to do with business or anything like that. So he's absolutely killed it with that. So they're the top 3, I would say.
Absolutely. And then finally, like I'm sure listeners are going to be very, interested to hear about like your SEO agency, your tools. Talk to them about where they can find out more about you personally, kind of connect with you, see kind of what your services are.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jake Z Ward on LinkedIn, Twitter. So follow me there. And you can check out ByWord.ai, which is the AI SEO SaaS, Kleo.so, which is a LinkedIn tool, free browser extension, and then Contact.so for Contact Studios. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to something I'm working on at the moment, which is a free community that will have a bunch of education. So all the resources I put together, so templates, checklists, everything to do with that. Different courses, SEO, LinkedIn, content distribution, all completely for free. So yeah, really excited about that thing I'm working on as well.
Absolutely. So everyone go obviously follow Jake. And if you guys have listened this far, you either really like me or you really like Jake, or maybe you like both of us. So give us 5 stars, obviously leave a comment, and then get back to growing your agency. What are you guys doing? Come on.